Hey, what's up guys, Sir Emanon here, and welcome back to another episode of Road to 1000 DuelingBook rating. So once again, I'm going to be on Adamancipator, and this time we're going to be up against Infernoble Knight. So just as a quick reminder, if we do manage to hit the 5,000 subscriber mark by the end of the month, I will be hosting a free giveaway tournament for you guys as a celebration. So if you are new here and interested in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content, definitely consider subscribing and be on the lookout for that. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So we are going to win the RPS, which is of course important in a combo matchup, but I want to showcase this match because there are different things that both my opponent and myself could have done differently to affect the match, which we'll kind of get into here as we go over the gameplay. So our opening is going to be Guardian, Reborn, Double Seeker, and Dragite. It's not an amazing hand because we don't have the broken extenders. Like, we don't have the best ones like Researcher and Signs, but we have Reborn, which is decent. The only thing is that we can't really summon Guardian if we want a special Seeker, which we kind of have to. So we're not like super safe around hand traps, but our opponent actually didn't open any. Their opening is Tactics, Smoke Grenade, Red Layer, the Renaud, as well as the Living Fossil. So it's actually decent going second because there is a fair amount of extension here, and Infernoble is one of the decks that doesn't necessarily have to play hand traps because it can play Ruler and Droplet against stuff like Dragon Link and break the board because Gear Freed exists. So definitely, this hand is actually certainly fine to go second, depending on the matchup, of course. Tactics is very nice going second. But yeah, we're going to start off here by normal summoning the Dragite, and then we're going to go for a copy of Seeker. We're going to fire off the Seeker effect, and then go for a copy of Doki. We have a couple of options here, but I decided to go for Doki because I generally just operate under the assumption that my opponent has hand traps, so I want to get rid of the Guardian to summon another one from deck, which is what I'm about to do right here. So activate Doki, discard Guardian, and then summon another one. Then I'm going to go for Fiber here with the Doki and the Seeker. So I mentioned in the last Road to 1000 episode against Salamangreat that if you summon just Fiber, it gets you to Martial, Metamarcher plus Integrator, of course, with the Raptite line. That's like a pretty standard one. But if you have a level 4 non-tuner that you can synchro with, you can actually skip the Integrator and go for Herald instead and still make Raptite afterward. So I'm going to go Link Cross, summon out 2 tokens after summoning level 2 tuner off of the Fiber, and then go for Martial Metamarcher, and then bring back a level 2 tuner, and then go for Herald, and then go for the Raptite here. So you don't get the draw this way, but you get another interruption, which is pretty nice, and it's also a protection piece, of course. Even though I already had Guardian, you know, you might have to play around double hand traps at certain points, like Nibiru Gamma, for example. Off the Raptite, we're going to hit a copy of Analyzer, which is pretty good. I just want to make sure that I can extend as far as we can before finalizing the end board. We're going to fire off the Analyzer, which unfortunately misses. It's not super unlikely to happen. It can definitely happen that you miss. It's just unfortunate, though. So here I decided to go for Verite Anaconda, and I think it's a mistake that I'm going to hold Reborn here, because this is kind of not the format or the deck where you can really afford to hold a lot of resources. So I probably should have just brought back another copy of Guardian and sat on it. The thing that's a little bit tricky is that I wasn't able to ever make Almirage because the normal summon was the Dragite, and I used that as a non-tuner instead of as like link material for Fiber. So it makes Leonite plays a little bit awkward, since I could have like also brought back Reborn to bring back Doki before I linked away Analyzer, to synchro Analyzer Doki into Leonite, and then try and hit like maybe a Science or something, and then go into Verite Anaconda. But I thought that was a little bit more high rolly, so I decided to be a bit more conservative. But you could have also just taken the route where you just go Reborn to bring back the Guardian, and that also would have been fine. So yeah, we're going to use Verite to send Fusion and Materials, which get banished from Herald, to summon a copy of Dragoon here. And then end phase, we're going to, of course, reveal for Guardian. So there could be an extra, and there probably should be an extra Guardian here for sure. So opponent draws a copy of Aqua Dolphin, which is actually fine, because there is no dedicated normal summon in this hand so far. So they're going to enter main phase and summon a copy of Red Layer, and then normal the Aqua Dolphin, and then go battle phase. I think my opponent should have considered maybe specialing the Renaud, and then going for Isolde, not using its effect, and then clearing both the Herald and the Guardian in battle phase, because that would have been pretty beneficial there. It would have still been tough to break the board, but it would have been one less negation to deal with. Opponent's then going to special Renaud main phase 2, and then is thinking for a little bit, and decide to use the Aqua Dolphin. So here I have the choice of either letting it go or burning a negation on it. And I decided to actually just let it go. It will suck that I'm going to lose the secret, which is what I wanted to pitch for the Dragoon to keep Reborn in hand. So if I let this go, then as I do here, I'm going to have to pitch the Reborn if I ever want to use Dragoon this turn, which kind of kills my follow-up a bit. But my line of thinking is that I want to reserve my negations to where I'm effectively trading 2 for 1, because if I stop the link monsters like Isolde and Fiber, then that's more resources that my opponent had to commit, whereas if I stop Dolphin here, it's just 1 for 1, right? So I let that go through, and then he goes into Isolde, and then uses the on-summon effect. And I actually decided to go ahead and just negate this, because I figured that with only 2 cards left in hand, there's not really a conceivable way to go for another Isolde and a Fiber without, you know, playing into Dragoon. So I figured that it's actually just fine to negate that here. And then he goes for Living Fossil, targeting the Aqua Dolphin, and I'm going to just Chain Raptide to banish it. And then the last card in his hand is Tactics, and he's going to try and take the Dragoon, but of course I'm just going to negate it. And my opponent decides to scoop there. I did have Raptide still on board, so I was able to, you know, summon just something else potentially next turn. And even if not, it still would have been Raptide plus Dragoon, which would have been tough to deal with from just a top decking position. So moving into game 2 here, our opponent is going to opt to go first. And they open, I actually didn't know this, but my opponent opened Bricks, so Cult Wing plus Scythe. Now to be fair, this hand is still good enough to combo. It's just that, you know, these are not the cards you want to see, but it is what it is. So my opponent starts off with a Reasoning, which is pretty interesting. And I ultimately end up calling 4 here. And it actually is good for me. Like, you would think it'd be good for me that, you know, I called the level correctly, but it actually puts the Fire Warrior in grave to be able to summon Astolfo, which is pretty funny. We do have Imperm Nibiru, but the rest of our hand is looking not very good. So we're gonna have to try and just hope that we can maybe like resolve Nibiru, then normal Plague Spreader, and go for Fiber, and hope that something happens that way. But yeah, gonna summon Astolfo here by banishing the Oliver, and then gonna summon Renard and add it back. So it wasn't actually that bad for my opponent that this missed. So gonna go into Isolde next, and then use that effect to search a copy of Red Layer. I do decide to use Imperm on this, even though I know that there's a Tuner Extender in hand, plus a way to pitch to summon it, simply because this makes it so that when my opponent has to commit into Fiber, I pretty much have a free window to Nibiru, because my opponent is never going to be in a situation where I use Nibiru and then is able to combo afterwards. Because, like, say I let this Isolde resolve, then if my opponent goes for like the Tatsunoko line with like Savage by synchroing Tatsunoko plus the Red Layer from hand, then there is a point where pretty much like on Savage effect or potentially earlier, like before the Tatsunoko, since it's unaffected by monster effects, I'd have to drop Nibiru. And then at any point then they can just use the Oliver and then go into Fiber, and that's full combo, and then my Imperm's off because I have a card in my field. So I figured it's just better to do it this way. So gonna summon Oliver and then go for Link Cross, and that's gonna summon 2 tokens. And then my opponent's going to go into Fiber next, and then go for a copy of Despot 1. I let my opponent commit a bit more just to use extra deck resources. Go into Marcher with a level 1 tuner and 2 tokens. That's going to bring back the Oliver, and then link those away for Auroradon, and summon out 3 level 3 tokens. And then my opponent summons the Deskbot back, and then here's a prime time to Nibiru. Now, to be fair, even though my opponent drew Cult Wing, even if he's on 1, it still would have been okay because there's power tool lines here. My opponent actually never normal summoned this entire time. So like this could have been a normal summon to be able to synchro away with like another level 4 tuner here. Again, there could be like power tool stuff, Herald. It's possible to have made like Roland as well, potentially with like Charles and stuff. So there's like multiple different ways. I can think of like Savage Herald lines here as well. So yeah, like even with this Cult Wing in hand, it wouldn't have been that bad had I not had this Nibiru. But of course I had it. And this is kind of just a demonstration of why you kind of need to play hand traps here. Even drawing the Scythe wouldn't have been awful if my opponent was able to have Charles, because then it could have been like equip, roll into Charles, and then pop Scythe, and then Scythe me out of the game, which, you know, is another just reason why. In decks like this, I feel like you need to play hand traps, because you're never gonna win by just playing only board breakers against a deck like Infernoble specifically, just because if they rip your cards out of your hand, it's not gonna be a good time. But yeah, we draw a copy of Seeker off the top, which is very, very good here. It makes it so that instead of normaling Plague, I can go normal summon Leonite and then special Seeker, so I have a bit more chances to actually play through an interruption. Here I thought that this was just going to be an imperm, so I'm just playing a little bit carefully. I go for the Seeker effect, and then we hit a copy of Guardian, so now I'm like, alright, the one possible hand trap in hand is off. So I feel pretty comfortable in just being able to full combo here. And then once my opponent sees Fiber, he's just going to concede. So I didn't actually know that it was a Scythe Coltwing, which again, definitely are bricks, but if my opponent was able to combo, like if I didn't open any hand traps, like opening Coltwing Scythe would have just not mattered at all. My opponent would have still ended on a very, very good board. And like again, popping Scythe with Charles would have just been game ending against Adamancipator. There's like no outs to that. So that's why, again, it's just important to be able to play hand traps if you can. It's kind of the format that we're in right now. But that's going to do it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comments. Subscribe for more informative Yu-Gi-Oh content. If you want to, you can follow me on Discord, Twitter, or Twitch. All 3 links in the description as always. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.